Hello, everybody. Slightly Slanted Sleuth coming at you. I'm in Oakdale, Minnesota, and hopefully in a minute I'll be joined by Arron Price of Australian School of Esoterica. We've got a lot of catching up to do since the last time we talked. But yeah, hi Max. Vision Remote View class. You change your name? Hey, what's up, Mr. Menza? And Miles, what's up, brother? My brother man, my brother from another mother. Yeah, guys, I just figured I was gonna touch. Hey, Crystal, how are you? Are you still here? I'm glad you guys are all part of my reality and part of this path that I'm. Hey, what's up, MCF? Shell, my wind beneath my wings. How are you, sweetheart? But yeah, Aaron was on here, and I don't know what happened to him. But look at, you see this? I do that every time in the mirror with the mirror effect. Look at this. Right here. I'm holding Lucifer. I'm glad you're doing good. How's Nate the Great? Never late. That's why he's the fantastic Nate. But yeah, I've had a couple huge, aha moments. As like, why didn't I think of that before? You know what I mean? And good. I'm glad to hear everything's okay. I hope that means everything's okay, Michelle. But yeah, guys, we are witnessing unprecedented stuff in our reality these days. You know, as far as the volcanic activity and the earthquakes. That's pretty common. Earthquakes are pretty common, right? What else? The skies, the everything is the same, hard, but we love him. We love you, Michelle. Hey, what's up, Crystal? But we tend to lose focus on the now, worrying about tomorrow or getting over yesterday, the past. And it's not the 70s anymore, and we're not in Kansas anymore, are we, Toto? We are witness to the rise of energies that haven't been with us for some some time now. Hang on. Sorry, I'm waiting for Aaron to come in. And here he is. Sorry, Aaron. What's up, brother? How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Sorry about that. I'm here.
Real good.
Good. Well, guys, I want to introduce to you Arron Price. He's also known as the founder of Australian School of Esoterica. He's a mate from, and I say mate, it's kind of weird me saying that because it's not normal for United or Americans to say mate, but it is pretty normal for the Australians. That's why I said it. But yeah, Aaron's a wonderful researcher. He's been a big part of my I don't know, back and forth of discussion of truth. And without you, who am I? Right, Aaron. I mean, without you, brother, who would I be? How you doing?
Likewise.
How you doing? That was kind of a shoddy intro, but yeah, this is Arron Price. He's a great guy. That's pretty much. He just did how many days of without food, bro?
39.
39?
Yeah.
Holy shit. What were you you had to been taking some sort of nutrient?
No, nothing at all.
Fruit juice, anything?
A little tiny bit, but other than that, nothing. Just for energy, really. But other than that, absolutely nothing. So when days got a little bit tough, yeah, a little bit, but other than that, pretty clean.
Wow. So what was it? Tell us what you your first revelation, or the biggest thing you got from that experience.
Probably that on some level that we don't actually require anything,
And
any
what do you think
material
that is?
nourishment whatsoever. On some sort of level, I mean, there's that definite biological urge to consume, but there is some sort of energy conversion that goes on without putting energy into you. So it's interesting. Probably went a bit hard to start with, but that's the way I do things. Balls to the wall, as I like to say. So probably will redo it properly and look at it from a more scientific sort of standpoint rather than just dabbling to see what happens. Maybe a little bit in the future once I incorporate some more gym and a bit of healthier nutrition, because I think that leading up to it, preparation's key, and I think that having some decent nutrition in your body is probably what you need. I probably didn't do that well enough. I did a little bit, probably not well enough, but you live and you learn, and it's all about the experience, isn't it, brother?
So was your reality starting to bend in a not so conformal way in your mind? I mean, were you hallucinating at all, or?
Um, I wouldn't probably say in my waking state, I probably wouldn't say it was that much different. I think the brain sort of dictates your thoughts and your visions and stuff like that, because you're so hungry and you're so tired, and you're pretty short fused most of the time. So I would say that most of those hallucinations would be mental, but dream state and meditation is a totally different kettle of fish. Probably got a little bit too weird for me, probably beyond the scope of my perception to be able to, sort of absorb some of the stuff that I experienced.
That's interesting.
A lot of it was unperceivable, which is really interesting. So it just shows that there's a lot of work that needs to go in beforehand to make it sort of, I don't know, I guess beneficial. I wouldn't say that it was beneficial for me in any way. I'd probably say that it was more detrimental than anything. But that all has to do with my approach and my knowledge and my wisdom going into it. So next time, be a bit more scientific, a little bit more careful, probably go, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, 25 days and spread it out. And probably, I think maybe I don't know, maybe my meditations leading into it need to be a little bit more precise for the task at hand. I was sort of just doing it willy-nilly, just going in, just going, oh, what's going to happen if I meditate now? So, I mean, it needs to change, needs to come around 360, start again, and, maybe with a little bit more of an open mind as well. I've been meditating full on for probably 7-8 years. So, my ego likes to think I can navigate myself around pretty well. But obviously it's been proven that I don't know shit, which I already know consciously. But, after you'd practice so long, your ego likes to sort of go, I got this. I know what's going on. So, I mean, yeah, just need
Did
to
I
be a
just
bit
hear
more.
you say your ego has an ego?
Yeah, absolutely. And the ego also has an ego.
Right. Ain't that weird how things just repeat themselves on every level, in every situation, and everything? If I could throw my little puny 3-day experience into what you just said, my biggest thing experience was that you realize that the stuff you put in your body actually affects everything in your life. I mean, because and I say that because when I was eating up until that point, I was seeing things and getting feedback from the environment, right? But I wasn't getting I wasn't clear. I wasn't understanding it. If you can follow me, is that how you were too, or?
Yep, absolutely. So what I would say is the biofeedback loop, whatever you want to call it. I was very strong going outwardly, but there was a wall when it came back into the body. So whether that's at some sort of energetic barrier through lack of nutrition, because I mean the brain plays an integral part on how you perceive things. So I mean when you're tired and worn out and you're hungry and you're thinking I can't do this anymore, probably makes a huge difference. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Right. So what did? Oh, sorry, bud. Didn't mean to talk over you.
No, you're right. Go ahead.
No, finish what you were saying there.
I was just saying that there's definitely some sort of blockage that stops that information looping back into you, because obviously while I'm meditating, I'm putting thoughts out, projecting outwardly to try and feed something back in. And yeah, obviously that wasn't working. Once I got to that higher level, because obviously there's meditating and then there's letting yourself go, you know, and they're two totally different things. And when I let myself go is when I had the weirdest kind of experiences. So
those weird experiences yeah, those weird sorry again, those experiences you're talking about, are they like unarticulatable, you can't describe the type of dream it was or experience, you know, but it was real nonetheless, but was it overwhelming to you?
Overwhelming in the fact that maybe I was hyper annoyed that I couldn't work out what was going on. But as far as the experience itself at the time, I wouldn't say it was overwhelming. I'll just say that I didn't understand it. I was fully aware that I didn't have any perception of what was going on. I had experience. I was living it. It was real. But as far as being able to disseminate the information and work out what was going on, had no idea, still don't have any idea. I found it very, very close to dimethyltryptamine, DMT. Sometimes, you know, I've done it quite a few times for different reasons. And sometimes you have experiences that you can't explain and they sort of sit with you forever. So it's sort of like that, you know, where you just can't comprehend what's going on, and that's how it is. And I think that, you know, maybe it's got something to do with, you know, my ability to perceive, really. And I need to work on that. I need to get better at perceiving the things I don't know, which is why I've probably the last few weeks I've been spending a lot of time working on different aspects of acceptance and what that means. I mean, because obviously when you accept others outwardly, you can accept the things that you don't understand, and that translates inwardly. So, you know, just sort of making a conscious effort to look at the way that I see the outside world, and especially people, because they're a reflection of yourself, obviously, and working out ways to understand why people are different and understand why you don't understand them. I think I've been trying to do that to hopefully get a better understanding of myself in a way so that I could perceive things a bit better next time.
Right. Well, you know, we say the cliche statement, and you know, we say that and we think it's a cliche statement or it's a blanket term, when in actuality, the reality is we are one from one energy, right? We are part of the soup, right? So if you're working on yourself, you're working on your neighbor, right? If you're working on your neighbor, you're working on yourself.
Yeah,
so that was beautifully.
Like I've spoken to you before about, I think that that's the fundamental way that our reality moves forward. You know, we've got this social perception that we all need to help each other and bring each other up. And I don't think that that's the case at all. I think it starts at home. And I think that, you know, the more you improve yourself, the more, you know, you project that outwardly to the people around you that they love. And you know, and it's like, it's a flow-on effect that keeps going outwardly and outwardly. I think when you're openly looking outwardly to help others before you help yourself, it stops right there. You know what I mean? It stops at the person you're helping. It doesn't help
Me and
yourself.
you kind of had a debate about this before, I think. You and I
did.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
And I was on the opposing side of that view you just stated, and now I've come full circle and totally agree with you. So yeah, thank you for that.
No, it's you know, that's the beauty of us as humans. You know, we're allowed to have one perception and change that perception. We don't have to stick to anything. You know, like you keep saying, in the middle
truth
of
truth is ever evolving in the means of, you know, there's only one truth, right? But I mean, the way truth is presented is evolving in ways that one can't perceive all that is without the help of another's eyes. And I think maybe that's what the whole reciprocating processional hyperboloid of life is about. You know, what do you say to that theory that I threw out that today on that video? What do you think to that? The whole ba and ka, north and south, one without the other, you know?
Yeah, I think it's just a different perception of the same understanding that you and I have talked about for a long time. It's just as above, so below. You've got these names, Ka and Ba, which I would say are electric and magnetic. And
Or
Ka and Ba
Shiva and
are,
Shakti, right?
yeah, Shiva and Shakti, or Prana and Shakti. They're the two different things. And then you've got the dielectric, which is the consciousness which drives the direction of both the electric and the magnetic. So I think that thing you posted was spot on. I couldn't, that I think, to me, I watched that and I just, there was no new revelations. It was
Yeah, me
just,
neither. It's just presented differently, right?
yeah, that's right. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, well, that makes sense. It wasn't
Mhm.
any major breakthrough. It was just a different perception using different words and a different understanding of the things that we already sort of understand, man. So
Right. But it's almost like the same as squaring the circle, because the magnetic field on Earth is a representation of exactly what we're talking about, and that's exactly what our reincarnation loop could be about. Part of that energy that never ends, but is in the finite, which is the transient us, and we're trying to find that middle way to the pinnacle, right?
yeah, and at a base level, we're all infinite energy. So, I mean,
Yes.
reincarnation is no different to, electric changing its polarity, or, electric turning into magnetic, or burying your pet in the backyard and them decomposing into the earth and turning into microbes and things like that. It's all the same thing. It's just, just presented a little bit differently.
So, what say you to the divine union? What is your opinion on that now? Do you believe that there's a graduation point where you become an angel or an angle of light, a high above or above the creator, which is the light, in my opinion, the Son of Man, Son of God, which is the self-replicating seed, that whole scenario. It's the antithesis for our existence, or the beginning to our beginning and end. But you know what I'm saying, right? Do you follow
Yeah, yeah,
me?
I
What
know
I'm
what you're
asking
saying.
you?
I think obviously the divine union's a real thing. I'm probably a little bit far away from the divine union at the moment. I'm still stuck in this dualistic understanding, like understanding the as above, so below, and the opposing energies and things like that. I think that once you get to a point where you can assimilate that understanding of opposing energies and positive, negative, without having to consciously think about it, I think that's when you can start to marry the two. I'm not quite there yet. I'm still at a point where I look around every day and I'm trying to see, the common ground between two objects, or whatever. But I do think that you can unify that understanding of the masculine and the feminine. But I do think you seriously need to have a firm understanding unconsciously of duality before you can do that. And I don't think I'm quite there yet. But you're right. I do think that is the way, to illumination, because you're understanding everything as it is and everything as the whole. And I think that once you do understand that, you are illuminated. So, I mean, I'm with you on that, man. I just don't have the physical experience yet to say that
But
is absolutely the case, but I do think it is.
yes, I feel the same exact way you just described it. Yeah, I couldn't articulate it any better. It's like knowing, it's like seeing the mountain summit, way off in the distance, and you just can't reach it because you ain't got the climbing gear there, right? To get there,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And it's sort of, probably a better way to put it is like you're sitting at base camp in Everest and you see the clouds above you that are covering the pinnacle of the mountain, but you know that if you can get through those clouds, you're going to be able to
Yes.
see the pinnacle of the mountain. So it's sort of that unconscious understanding that it does exist, even though you can't see it or experience it yet. That's how I would put it.
The cloud is this life, dude.
Yeah, absolutely. The cloud is the matrix of social paradigms that are forced down our throats every day to make us act and believe
Yep.
certain things. And
And I think that's what a lot of people think as a they are doing this to us type scenario, where I think it's by design. So we have to struggle. We have to strive through the discernment factors, through the horrific factors of our societies, and I think a consequence of our society or the cycle going on longer is more entropy and more downtrodden and more strife, and it just
Yep.
until that resets, right?
I'm
What
sorry,
do you
mate,
think?
I just have to hold that thought for a second. I've got to run for 1 second. I'll be back.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. But yeah, I hope you guys are, hey, thoughts, what's up? I just like music, some scales and chords make you feel happy or sad, right? What are you guys talking about? The systems manipulate you with emotions, right? I think emotions are another part of the deception, and I think that's what food is. How it's said that food is a bard to the soul, is detrimental to the soul due to us wanting it. Us gluttony, the seven deadly sins: gluttony, lust, whatever is a deadly sin is usually to do with us and our inability to control the lust or the want for it, the addiction. What's up, Mike? Hello. Does the gentleman have a YouTube channel? No, he does not. He's started a channel. I think he's got a Facebook page, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But he's hey, do you have a channel or a Facebook page yet, brother?
No, just the Facebook page that I was running a while ago. But at the moment, I would say that there's nothing on the social media front because I'm trying to stay away from passing on information and more interested on absorbing information. I found that I took a very spiritual seat there for a while where I worked on the spiritual side of things a lot and neglected the material. And in that same instance, I was doing a lot of passing out information, but not enough concentration on absorbing the information. I think, that's the dualistic world in a teacup right there. So at the moment, nothing. At the moment, all the esoteric stuff is sort of taking a back seat. Obviously, I still do my own personal research. But
Well, you just had a baby, right?
Yeah, that's it. There's that. And this tarot thing that I'm working on is going to be a massive. It's going to be a lifelong commitment. I thought I was probably going to get it done this year. But archetypes are just so deep that I just don't think that I can get it out. By the end of this year, maybe not even next
year. When you told me that first, I was like, wow, man, that's pretty huge undertaking. But that's gonna be cool.
I can use the system that I've already created now to make people aware of what archetypes they play and things like that, and the unconscious energies that they bring into their life. But I think I'm having a hard point getting that across to someone so that they understand it themselves. I know someone with a higher sort of level of psychology is going to be able to take it in their stride, but the average layman who I want to show how archetypes affect all of us and how prevalent they are. Like, for me, I think archetypes are the base of our reality. There is nothing without archetypes. So, and I think that, the way that I present it is a little bit convoluted to someone who doesn't even know what an archetype is. So I want to sort of get it back round and full circle back to a point where someone can pick up the book and pick up some tarot cards and start fresh and get a fresh understanding of archetypes and not just leave it at the tarot, be able to use that in their everyday life and separate it from the tarot. I don't want it to be about the tarot. I want it to be about archetypes. I'm just using the tarot as a tool to be able to understand the archetypes which control us, really.
Yes. And I wanted to get your opinion on archetype, archon. I mean, Same thing, right?
Yeah, well, from my understanding, archon is the top of the pyramid structure. All archetypes are pyramid structured. You've got your base archetypes of masculine and feminine, and then you sort of work down there from there. So I would say archon, meaning ruler, is the top of the pyramid, as all rulers or all decision makers, lawmakers are all at the top of the pyramid. And then the archetypes are the types of different levels of understanding of rule that come underneath that top archon point. So I would say that, coming into my new understanding of archetypes, I would rule out that archons are some sort of entity or force that is controlling us. I think that is completely incorrect. I think the Archons, like the Demiurge, would be a good way to describe, the controllers of the reality. And they're a type of Archon, but they're not specifically an Archon. And I think lots of people get caught up saying Archon's this, Archon's that. But, in reality, it's no different to saying government this, government that. Same thing. It's just ruler. It's just top of the power structure. And it shows, to me, it shows the higher level of resentment for the Archon is a lower level of self-drive and self-worth that creates that. Because the more you scale the pyramid, the less you care about who's up the top. You only care about where you are. It's when you're being oppressed and stomped on that you care about who's at the top, because you're at the bottom. So, these people that peddle all this fear about Archons, they're controlling and everything. I would say that they're at the bottom of the rung, which I would say is fear frequency is the bottom of the pyramid, and that's why they hate the Archons so much, because they have no personal power to overcome the perception of being ruled. Because being ruled is perception.
Right. It's the deception is everything in our paradigm is explosive, from combustion engine to expansion, and nothing is implosion or inward. And I think that's right there is the number one key to realize. If there's not one, there's not the other. If there's no light, there's no dark. I mean, there's got to be a mix.
Yeah, and I would say that meditation is probably the implosion rather than the explosion.
Yes, very nice.
That's what's lost in our community is the ability to go inside and implode. For example, is someone pisses you off to the point that you feel like tearing their heads off and you want to explode. If you stop and go, why am I angry? What behaviors do I have that I see in this person that makes me angry? You're imploding that energy. You're putting it back inside of you and taking responsibility and saying, I'm the one in control of my emotions here, and it's me creating this situation, not this external force. That's that implosion, and that's what's lost. We're quick to blame others. You're wrong, I'm right. You're controlling me, I'm oppressed. It's all the same archetype bull crap. I'm a victim, you're the perpetrator. And
you're pretty much you're giving yourself to that energy when you're doing that. In my opinion, don't you? Is that pretty much what you're saying?
Yeah, well, absolutely. As soon as you outwardly express your anger towards someone else, you're taking on the archetype of the victim. And there's a whole lot of behavioral traits, mental traits, spiritual traits that are involved with the archetype of the victim, just as there's a lot of traits that are included in the archetype of the perpetrator. And I think, that's why I think archetypes are they're so pivotal in our understanding of ourselves and understanding of the world around us, is that we unconsciously take on these roles all the time, like saying, I'm the victim, I'm oppressed, I've got no money, I'm working for nothing, I'm sick of working, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that, and you're unaware of all the extra personality traits that you project outwardly when you decide to take on that archetype. If you follow.
Yeah, I follow totally. I think the mastery of our own emotional state, and me, that's coming from a very emotional person. You know me, man. I hope I've made some stride in the positive on that, but I'm not looking for any back pad in there or anything. But the emotional side of our existence, I think, is the result therein of our understanding of what this is all about. Because I think there's, and I'm trying not to use the word belief anymore, because I think that is what's got, or identifying yourself with who you are, with what you think is, when reality is that we know nothing. if you're not looking inward, nothing. Nothing. And I thought, hey man, that's bullshit, because I know myself. I know me. I know what I feel like. I'm pissed off, sure. But I mean, I won't be pissed off in 5 minutes. But still, you give away that pissed off to the world, and that world will give it back to you. And that's my firm belief. And the ultimate making 2 1 again, bro, I believe is see, I just said I believe. You see that? I think is the energy of the ether or our spirit soul self and the physical. I think that is the ultimate divine union. You know, I think
Yeah,
that's the light in
absolutely.
the dark. So yeah,
Absolutely. That's why I've come to the realization lately is that there's got to be this absolute balance between the spiritual and the material. You know, a lot of people get caught up in finding that there's more to themselves than their physical self, and they put all their time and effort into generating some sort of personality out of spirituality, the spiritual side of themselves, which doesn't have a personality. And you know, it causes chaos. And I would like to say, for example, with my boy, as a bloke's bloke and a manly guy who likes to go shooting and do all these things, motorbike riding, playing sport and all that, I want to instill those masculine traits in my son. But however, when my son is upset or confused or whatever, I'm making sure that I'm embodying that feminine archetype to give him that balance between being loved when you need love and being aggression when you need to take control of the situation. And also that thing of when you're hurt, that someone's there for you, but when you're, you know, that it's a fine line, because I'm also making sure that I'm reasonably rough with him so that he's not hurt so easily, you know, because that is archetypally, that is a feminine trait, is being hurt easily because they're more emotional beings. That's, you know, that the archetype of it. So I'm making sure when it comes to things like emotions that he is still masculine, but he has that soft feminine understanding, if you know what I mean.
no, I know exactly what you mean, and I've done that unwillingly and over the topish, as far as trying to get my children desensitized to the bullying of our world, and the cynicism of our world, and the downtrodden, vulgar behavior of our world. You know, and I went over the top to the point where, you know, they expect a crazy statement out of me when I'm, you know, they expect it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, nothing surprises them anymore. So, you know, I realized that I went over the top, you know, but I mean, my kids know I love them. You know, I'm talking like roughing them up, or, you know, just playing with them, and, you know, you just like you described it. And it's crazy how I've had 4 kids, and I want another one, man. But you know, I'm beyond that age, and you know, my wife's eternal, you know, the clicker, and, you know, whatever, you know, so we're too old. And so, you know, I'm envious, brother. I wish I had a baby in my house still.
And like it's the thing is like I'm not necessarily consciously doing this to develop my boy. I think this is
No, it
it's a
comes
natural
inherently. Yep.
we all have, that if we apply our common sense and our love towards looking after our children, then that this is what happened. And I think that this is what we get lost in ourselves, that the biological understanding that we have more than one way to improve ourselves and more than one way to perceive reality has been lost. You know, and
Yeah.
we instill that in our children, yet it's been lost by the time we get to adults. And I find that really interesting. And I try I try now, knowing that I'm unconsciously doing that to my son, to try and bring that unconscious understanding back into myself. I'm not sure how it's been indoctrinated out of me, or, you know, there's a million different ways that could have been taken out of my understanding, but I'm trying my hardest to make sure I do that. I have that balance between the masculine and the feminine.
Just in its sheer absence, I think it disappears. You know, if it's not taught, if it's not, you know, instilled in you. And that's why I appreciate you in my life. I appreciate everybody that's in this journey with me, because everybody in our environment, in our reality, contributes to who we are, regardless if you want to admit it or not. And that goes from the person at the gas station, right? I mean, you agree with that, correct?
Absolutely. And I would argue it's the people who you don't like that are the most beneficial to you in the way you navigate around.
The ones you butt heads with. Yes. Sorry, you cut
Because
out and I talked over you. I'm sorry. Finish that thought.
I just feel like the paradigm or the archetype that you embody when you're around friends is reasonably closed-minded because you have expectations of what this person's like, how they're going to behave, how they're going to treat you, what kind of time you're going to have with them. But with someone that you don't like, your perception is widened so much further because you have that uncertainty of how they're going to behave, how they're going to treat you, what the situation's going to be like. So just in that alone, you know, common sense says that you're going to learn a lot more from someone that you don't like than someone that you do like.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. You, speaking to what you just were talking about how everything in our reality has gotten convoluted or misplaced or lost to the ages. I was reading, this Emerald tablets. I read them all the time, that. But now, list ye now to the unveiling of mystery. List to the symbols of mystery I give. Make of it a religion, for thus will its essence remain. Do you think that that's what true religion was born of? Is like that? I mean, because everything in this book, dude, I've gone over and over and over and over and over a million times. You know that, and it all still seems true to me as it did the first time I read it. I more so now because I understand it.
Yeah.
So, have you been studying the tablets at all, or do you make it a part of?
I've been off the tablets for the last couple of months. I've been getting deep into Jung's work and Freud's work with archetypes and understanding the spiritual psychology per se, because they are obviously the leaders in mainstream psychology that were able to implement the spiritual. And I think that there's not much difference between studying Jung's work and studying the Emerald tablets. I think they're two different ways to go about the same thing. And I think you're right. I think that is the essence of religion. The essence of religion is to be within and understand all, really. I don't think there's anything. I think that's a way that you should live your life, is to, understand yourself first in order to understand everything else, and understand that you are one with everything else. That's the one true religion. There's no way to construe that message. There's no way to perceive that differently. No matter who you are, there's only one perception. And I think when we come down to truth and we come down to reality, there should be a unified perception between all people. And that's why I've said to you many times that I question whether there is a true objective truth. I would like to think that there is. I would love to think that there is, because I'm always searching for the truth. So without understanding that there's, if I understand that there's no objective truth, then, what I'm doing is useless. But at the same time, I test things all the time and, put myself in and out of different paradigms. And I see that when truth is presented to two people at the same time, they do perceive it differently. So, I mean, I would like to think that anything that is truth is going to be perceived the same by any two people. But, our experiences are so different. Is that even possible?
Right.
Beyond what we've been programmed into through our schooling system and stuff like that, which, our schooling system is basically what gives us this objective reality. And, beyond that, as soon as you move outside of the paradigm of schooling and what you get taught from your parents, and you get into the world of your own perception and perceiving things without having a prior understanding.
Nature versus nurture. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And I just think it gets more convoluted when you're out on your own than it does when you've got the guide of an understanding of another, which comes all the way back to elders and how they play an integral part in our society, and they're not there anymore.
Matriarchs. Yes.
Yeah, matriarchs, patriarchs, they all serve completely different roles. For some societies, patriarchal societies better, matriarchal is better for others. For example, for a nurse, matriarch having a feminine head is a lot better, energetically for the crowd below, underneath the power structure of the top, than what a masculine one is. And just like a men's basketball coach is generally going to be better as a man with the understanding of the masculine attributes as it is as a woman. Doesn't mean that it's necessarily always the case, but it is mainly.
Well, that goes with the archetypical stuff you were talking about earlier. Or we could just coin it as stereotypical, right? I mean, it's we put what we perceive things to be. doesn't necessarily jive sometimes with what they really are, and that is due to the previous input that we were perceiving on the said subjects or said input. I mean, that's, and what if we're taught the wrong thing from the beginning, and we put our belief and align ourselves behind that, and make it who we are or part of who we are. It's hard to give that up. It's hard to get your foot off the throttle of knowing something when somebody's trying to tell you to break for because and take a look at this because it's not what you think it is. And that's where I think all the wars and strife of our world come from, is that I know more than you, you know more than me. My way is the way, your way is the highway. And I think that is part of the pearls before swine analogy, whole aspect of it. And what do you think about that? How everything is seems to be hidden on purpose? Because you used to have one opinion on this sort of thing when we first started talking, and I think I sense in you kind of you went off on a fork and came, like I said earlier about my view on the what we were talking about earlier. I can't remember now, but so have you gone a little astray from how you originally felt about how somebody's got their foot on the gas and they ain't lifting it up, and we're getting ever closer to hitting the wall?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's one side of the duality, is that someone's got their foot flat on the gas and we're about to hit the wall. But then on the other side of the duality, we've got a collective of people that are too afraid to put their foot on the brake pedal, and for me, although yes, we are most definitely being, coerced and manipulated by, the people with only their own interests at heart. We are the progenitors of our own reality. And at the end of the day, if you come into it with that sort of mindset, anything that happens to you is no fault but your own. And I think that although I did have an understanding of that, I think I didn't apply it to absolutely every aspect of my life like I do now. If I feel angry, it's my fault. Something bad happens to me, it's my fault. I'm trying my hardest. Of course, there's programs inside of me and traumas and things which make me spurt outwardly as they do with everyone, but I'm trying my hardest to make a conscious, understanding that this is all my fault. Everything bad that happens to me is something that I've created for myself, just as everything that's good that's created for me is everything that's happened for myself. And I think that before, even though I did understand that, I didn't apply that, and that's why it's easy to skew either side, like it's all my fault or it's all their fault, it's all my fault, because you're not really taking a hard line. You're not taking that middle line and saying everything is what it is. I'm the controller, and I think that in the last few months, especially with this archetypal work and understanding archetypes and how I behave and how I, take on archetypes, I think that that's what's instilled that from going from, them, they, to me, us, And
Awesome,
I think that
dude.
I think that should be a natural progression for everyone. I think that
Right.
Understanding that these outside influences that do affect us and do control the way that we live our life unconsciously, the understanding of that is sort of the thing that makes you take hold of the reins and say, I'm in control here. I want the reins back, and you can try and knock me off the horse as much as you can, but I'm the one in control.
Right. I just had this happen to me. I cut my arm, right here. Again, I had to get stitches or whatnot. Well,
Ooh.
I'm in the emergency room, and they asked me, "Do you want a tetanus shot?" Well, the tetanus shot nowadays is given with diphtheria and some other inoculation. And I'm like, okay, so what's the consequences or the risks? Da 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 da. And I've had tetanus the same shot before because I'm in construction. I've cut myself many times. Well, they give you this sheet, and you read through it. It tells you the pros, cons, history. It gives you the history of the inoculation, whatever. But then on the back, yeah, I didn't see it until afterwards. I finally gave in, because my wife, she's a nurse, and she was like, "You don't want to have lockjaw, Well, no, I don't want to. I don't want to be coerced into getting a shot either, But
yeah,
it's funny how some people will perceive that whole situation, and even I did at that moment, as far as there is entity, if there is an entity involved in against us, an anti us, it would be money. And I think that's what everybody's uh, drive to get by, to survive, is it's like a catch-22 in a way, where we're stuck in this loop of, that isn't, whoa, that's weird. I just had that realization that that's the dual opposites in that aspect. What's keeping us down and what we need is the same thing. So
yeah, and I would say that the unified force that's holding that entire perception or point of view down is the social paradigm itself, because
nice.
everything that is bombarded at us from a social paradigm perspective affects everything that we do, and everyone, you can sit there and you can say as much as you want, oh, that doesn't affect me, but I mean, go put your head in a Jung book or something for a few hours and get a better understanding of how the unconscious collective affects all of us, and you soon see a completely different, understanding.
Hello? You locked up, Aaron? Hey, you back?
Yo, you there?
Yeah, I can see you. Yep. Yeah, so you started talking about the social media and also, or the social media aspect of our life, and look what happened.
So yeah, I would argue the point that you just made about money, being a driver and whatever. I would say that money itself is meaningless.
Right.
I would say social pressure that is implied upon money, which creates the negative paradigm. It's
keeping up with the Joneses, right?
What's that, mate?
Keeping up with the Joneses.
Exactly. Just trying to be like the neighbor, trying to be like the person you saw on TV, trying to be as good as someone else is, not better than the person you were yesterday, as I would like to say.
Yes, and that's what makes this hell. Do you think there is a hell? Or do you think this is the closest thing to it?
I think we're in it, and I think we're in heaven as well.
Yes. Nice.
I think in my understanding of duality, and how far it's come, both the positive and negative still reside within the whole. They're not separate from each other. They both reside within the whole. They do horizontally and vertically oppose each other. They do repel each other. They do attract each other. But when push comes to shove and you get down to the nitty gritty, they're still within the same sphere of existence. So I would say, it's within, like it says in the Bible, the kingdom of heaven is within us. So is the kingdom of hell. You can choose to, see the world in a beautiful way, or you can see it in a terrible way. And I think that's what makes heaven and hell. I don't think that it's any more complex than that. I don't think that hell's another dimension. I don't think heaven's another dimension. I do think that there are separate dimensions which move up in frequency, that potentially get closer to what we perceive as heaven. But I don't think that that is heaven. I think that, and just for the same, I think that Earth, everything put aside and everything that I know, I think the Earth is the center of everything that we know. And it could potentially be the center of everything that everyone knows. And I personally believe, in my understanding, doesn't mean that it's true, but from my research and my practical work that I've put into, understanding duality, I think that all those dimensions reside within this single plane of existence. I think that Earth is the place, and the dimensions of the multiple frequencies within this residence. That's how I've come, in the last probably year or so. That's what I've come to understand anyway.
It makes you wonder when, like Copernicus, when he first stated that it's not geocentric, or geocentric, it's heliocentric. When he first came up with that, and the pushback, and then how they used to think or understand that the Earth was the center of the universe. And you have to wonder, well, if they were that scholarly to have that debate, then where did that thought come from in the first place? If you looked up in the sky and you were wise enough to see the precession of the stars and how some of them moved around, and you took note of that, How could you not know? You know, that just doesn't make sense to me. So I think that that's where the merging of our understanding has been split apart. You know, like through the fabric of our past. You know, or the memory of us. You know, and maybe that happens every cycle. I don't know. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think that, you know, back when we went from the geocentric to the heliocentric model, I think that that's when science started getting its dirty mitts on everything, and I
Very
think
good
that
point.
perception. So the thing that comes to my mind is you've got a plate, right? You've got a plate. Now, the center of that plate is the center of everything. It's the center of, you know, dispersion of weight, of electromagnetism, the whole box and dice. It is the center of the universe, that plate. But if you put a cupcake on the right-hand side of that plate, it's no longer the center of the universe because the perception is centered on that cupcake. It's centered on what you want. So although the plate, the center of the plate, is in all reality the center of existence, that cupcake is the center of perception, and it tricks.
That's beautiful, dude. I'm a fat kid, so I can identify with that analogy.
I think that's the best analogy.
Sorry. Did you hear me? You
Yeah,
went, you pulled one of Rex Bear's skits right there out of your butt, and you just skipped ahead, dude. You got to back up like 3 sentences. No, seriously, your feed just went. I couldn't understand you. I'm sorry.
Where'd you get up to?
The cupcake, and I was telling you how beautiful it was, and that I can identify with that analogy because I'm a fat kid and I love to eat cupcakes.
Yeah, and same with me, you know, and because we're fat kids and we love cupcakes, you could put anything else on that plate, and that cupcake is the center of our reality. And it comes back to Robert Anton Wilson, who was a great philosopher, great psychologist, a little bit of a mystic, and his thing was that in the 7-bit circuit of consciousness is that the prover will always prove, and the skeptic will always be skeptical. And it comes back to that once again. When you have science that works on skepticism, it's saying, well, no, the sun and everything goes around the sun, so it's heliocentric. Whereas the thinker, you know, the prover's saying, okay, well, the sun is the center of the universe, but what does it matter? Because the earth is the center of our reality. That's where our focus should be, you know?
Yes.
And that's
Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, you cut out again. It's center of our. Finish that thought.
What's that? Sorry, you were breaking up.
See, we're breaking up. We're messing up the energy field, I think. I don't know. But you said the Earth is our center of our reality. So, and then finish that thought. What you said after that. I'm sorry.
Well, I can't remember actually. Well, the Earth is the center of
I love it.
The Earth is the center of our reality, so that's what we should be focused on. And it's just like you using that again by saying that, you know, if you center your understanding on someone else and not yourself, you're not living your authentic reality. It's just like saying that it's heliocentric instead of geocentric. You know, geocentrism is our reality. Our Earth is the center of our existence as we know it. You know, the sun might feed light and whatever to the earth and create life. That may be the case. But the fact is, our reality is perceived from one point in time, and that's on Earth. So I can't see why it shouldn't be a geocentric model. I know we all like to get, you know, like to get caught up in space and physics and things like that. But what does any of it matter to us as humans? You know, we're having a human experience. Our focus should be on the here and now, not what's out there, you know? Or
even what we're standing on, in my opinion. I mean, as far as taking care of it, yes, but I mean, what shape it is, who cares? You know,
it doesn't matter whether it's flat, whether it's globe, whether it's an oblong spheroid. That doesn't matter to me. That all that matters is that the feet where I have planted are on the earth, whether it be flat or round. That's right. The case. It doesn't make any difference to me what shape it is. You know, it doesn't make difference to me whether the gravity model's right. It doesn't matter. What matters to me is what I'm encountering today.
Yes.
And, you know,
Yes, we all live in a yellow submarine is a good analogy, you know, because we are all here together. And
Exactly right. Exactly
yeah.
right. And it comes back to the old thing of, you know, we understand more about ourselves if we see, how we're affected by others. You can bring that allegorically back to the heliocentric geocentric model. If we spend less time working out what's going on out there and more time working out what's going on here, it's going to be better for everyone living here. Finding out the secrets of the universe, and what's in space does absolutely nothing but feed the egos of people, who
Right.
have academic scholarships. It's nothing for me. It doesn't matter, where Pluto is, where Jupiter is, or whatever. What matters
Oh,
is where I am.
yeah, I've got another question for you. You're big on the tree of life and the archetypes of the planets or whatever, and that whole tree of setup. The Dath, or it's called Daat in the
Yep.
Hebrew version, and
Yep.
Daath in the other version, right? Or
Yep. And it's
okay,
pronounced da, da,
Da
da. Yep.
Da
Da. So you got the
Da.
ba,
Okay.
the ta, and the da. You got
Oh,
the
sweet. Do you
the
think
two.
that's the duat? Do you think the
Um,
da is the duat?
in a way, yeah. Yep. Depending, obviously, the Sephiroth Tree of Life is all about perception. Everyone sees it differently. I
Yes.
come from a psychological, archetypical kind of direction, so it's a lot different understanding to, someone who's working with entities and hyperdimensionals and gods and angels. It's a totally different perception. So Dart for me, from an archetypal standpoint, is like the hidden makeup of our reality. So yeah,
Ah, beautiful.
dualistic, you could see that, but I would say that Dart is death. So Pluto is also death, right? But I would say that Darth, because if you look at the Tree of Life, you can see all of the outside spheres of the Sephiroth. They've all got very clear circles that surround, the spheres of existence, but Dart has a broken line on the inside. So that word, archetypally, that would say to me that that is a reality that's hidden inside of the reality. So I would say that it's got some sort of connection to death, because I think that death is one of the major things that constructs our reality. The perception of death and the collective perception of death is what perceives our reality. Our fear of death is the biggest thing that any of us have to encounter in our life, and that obviously translates through into the collective levels. And obviously that has some sort of effect on the way that we perceive the way that life is and the way that it's supposed to be lived. And I would say a lot of that and a lot of our fear of death is unconscious. So when I look at Dart or Da, I would say that that is the unconscious aspect of the archetypal tree of life, I would say. So it could be duality, it could be death, it could be life itself, but it's whatever it is, it's whatever major influence is going on behind the veil, which constructs the tree of life. That is what I would say that Dart is.
It's the first time I seen the Tree of Life, and I was totally green to all of this. I've told you this a million times that I was always looking at the sky, filming the sky. I thought a planet was coming to kill us. I believed in Nibiru, and now and the reason why I think I believed it or understood it as truth was because it really is, but it's a different. It's the inside, like you were just saying. It's the interior, but the first time I seen the Tree of Life, I saw Da as death just right
Yep.
away. That's what I thought of. I instantly thought, and I knew nothing on symbology, knew nothing on Shakma, Bina, and reason, knew nothing on the crown, knew nothing on the Kundalini experience, knew nothing on any of it. And that was the
Yep.
very first thing I noticed was how the earth was considered the kingdom, and how Dath, right away I saw death. I didn't know how to say Da or even dot or duat. I didn't even know what the duat was. So
Yep.
do you think that that's what the symbolism of yesterday is about? Is conveying messages to our.
Yeah, I think so. And if we take it back to a vibratory level, if you were to think of all the spheres of the Sephiroth as simple vibrations, you've got Malkuth, which is the kingdom, which is Earth. But then you've got the top of the Sephiroth, which actually isn't a part of our physical reality. So the Holy Trinity at the top of the Tree of Life is the ethereal spiritual side of the manifestation of existence. Dart sits right below that. So you've got life at the bottom, you've got the different emanations of life as you come up, then you've got Dart, which is death, which is the end of the physical side of the Tree of Life, and then you move into the Holy Trinity up the top, into the spiritual ethereal side, which transcends death. So, thinking about that and peeling it back on a few different layers, I would say that Dart is death. Just like Pluto at the very top, a lot of people classify Pluto as death itself, and that's where there's a lot of, conjecture about the Tree of Life and who goes where. But I wouldn't say that it's necessarily death. It's more so the overworld / underworld that I believe. That's what I believe that it is, and that's why a lot of people get things mixed up and put Uranus at the top of the Tree of Life. Uranus is the unknown, is mystical. It's not the be all and end all. It's things that underlie within the reality. So Pluto is the furthest out in the solar system in our physical understanding of reality. So I would say
it's 9. It's 9, dude.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And it's the king of the cycles. Number 9 is the king of the cycles. So, I mean, I'm not a scholar.
What if you just said that the top of the Trinity is the etherical realm, and if you look at the top of the Tree of Life, you see that it's through wisdom comes understanding to produce reason. So where do all 3 of those things manifest? Right here.
Yeah, and I would say that I've seen that same understanding outlined a few different ways. And I would say that the first bit knowledge comes from the right-hand side, the masculine, and then the understanding comes from the left, from the feminine. And at the very top of the Tree of Life is marrying both the masculine and the feminine, which comes wisdom. That's what I believe. So you have reason.
I think that's one aspect or magnitude of the layered onion of reality, as far as the manifestations and the repeating, archetypical energy, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah. And it's just amazing to me how the magnetic analogy fits the incarnation cycle, as far as the you go through this ebb and flow, even in just one life. In my life, you go through this ebb and flow of find and lost, and find and lost. The old adage, I've forgotten more than you've ever learned. That whole thing. It's just like a rhythm. And you touched on that earlier about the rhythm of life and how things can ebb and flow. With every in, there must be an out. So do you think Set is, as far as in the rise, the noon, and the set, do you think Set is the end all be all, as far as, like even in Egyptian knowing, or what I don't know what you want to call it, Egypt hieroglyphs. It shows you that Set is always a preeminent figure in the archetypical understanding. What do you think? Where do you think that all fits in?
Yeah, Set isn't the be all and end all. It's just the end of one cycle, and depending on your perception on how you see the world, it's either the end of one cycle or the start of another.
Thank you.
Just like some people see Sunday as the end of the week, and that some people see Sunday as the start of the week, But I wouldn't say it's the be all and end all. It's like, yeah.
Right. I wanted to finish this thought, because I had it in my back burner of my mind, and my mind is always on the front burner going, no, do this. And then all of a sudden I forget about what I was on the back burner. Now I already forgotten. No, but I wanted to thank Paula for sharing. There's a Hebrew transliteration of the Sephirotic tree, the Sephiroth tree, that states that Da is Pluto. And yeah. So you've seen that too?
Yeah. So in Kabbalistic Hermetics, that is absolutely, the Da is Pluto. Also in a few other books that I have, Golden Dawn also uses Kabbalistic Tree of Life, also says the same. But I personally, in my personal understanding, throw that away and I put Pluto at the top, only because it makes sense that if Earth is the kingdom, it's at the bottom, then Pluto is the furthest away, it's at the top. You know, if Earth is heaven and hell, and you know, Pluto is the underworld, overworld, you know, and we think about that archetypally as well. If we're both heaven and hell, that is life, right? And then when you've got the underworld, overworld, that is still life, but it is beyond the veil of the life that we understand now. It's a different type of energy of life. For example, I would call that Pluto would be the spirit sphere, whereas Earth would be the material sphere. So regardless of what these scholars and stuff say, I know that they research it a lot, you know, and put all the links together. But I mean, you can't get past the archetypal and the dualistic nature of reality. And I think that if you use your common sense and you apply that, I think saying that Da is Pluto, it just convolutes the entire tree of life. It's like, you know, why put the most mysterious thing before the top of the tree of life? I mean, the top of the tree of life should be the pinnacle. It should be the most misunderstood, most mysterious thing in our lifetime, just as Malkuth at the bottom should be the most understood, you know, most realistic thing that we experience in our lifetime. And to put the most misunderstood thing below something that we can never comprehend does not make sense to me. So I would say that everything in the Holy Trinity is something that's beyond our comprehension, unless we can obviously transverse the spheres beyond, you know, Da into that Holy Trinity. Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong, but I like to use my common sense.
I think you're right on the money, dude. I think because I was on the Kabbalah train and the all is mind train as well for a minute, and realized that sure, all is mind, but you have to take steps in a way that isn't talked about in the teachings there. You know, I mean, yeah, you know, there's a lot in there that you can take from and live your life by and succeed with. But I think you're right on the money when you said that that Pluto is get this, Pluto is at a 17-degree angle as opposed to the ecliptic, right? Sirius is the same way, right? And this is how you and I have come to this conclusion, or this discussion about Pluto. That's why I think why it creeped into our reality is because of the conversation we had, right? I mean, and that conjunction that's coming up, and whether or not it's something, doesn't matter. I think it matters to you and I in our reality that it makes us think about what this whole construct is about. And if anything you can take away from alchemy, it's that you have to bring the two extremes into one because they're the same. They're just different magnitudes or levels. And so what if Da is the death of the ego in respect to, like, you have to die before you die, so when you die you don't die, or you have to be born again in, you know, what that question you answered for me about the Pa and the Ka, you know, without, you know, you have to be incarnate in the Ka for Ba to exist or happen. So, you know,
you're absolutely spot on. You couldn't have a better perception of that, really. I think, you know, as far as my understanding, spot on.
Right. Awesome. And Pluto is the symbol thing, you know, with the arms up. That's a Pluto symbol. And then and then Paula pointed out that the orca or whatever that is the opposite of Pluto with the arms down. You know what I'm talking about? That symbol. Are you familiar with that orca part or the judger? Is that what it's pretty much the archetype is?
I'm not familiar with it, but if you tell me the archetype, I could get familiar with it pretty instantaneously. So
yeah, I think it rights the wrongs of misdeeds. I think the judge, you know,
or the vigilante archetype.
Yeah, probably the do-gooder part.
You know, to me, archetypally, that shows a disposition, like, this is the way that I see the world, and the world must conform to the way that I see it. That's a part of it. You know, for example, a vigilante who goes out slaying bad guys, that's his reality. It's his reality that they're bad guys and that they're doing bad unto others. But those bad guys are in a different paradigm altogether, right? So they don't believe that they're doing bad. They're just doing what they do. And the bad deeds that they do work out in good health for the people around them that they're friends with. So, you know, for me, it shows to me that if it is the vigilante or the judge, it's like saying that I believe that these are the immutable laws of the universe, and you must comply to that, without the understanding that it's different from every perspective.
Yes, that's pretty much what we have to realize is everybody, to one man's eyes, they're going to see things differently than the other, right? I mean, things are going to present themselves. And what do you say to the if I've been thinking a lot about the what was that? Did you hear that? Or was that you? Huh? Oh, you muted yourself. That's what you did. Yeah. Yes, you muted yourself.
We're back.
There you
Sorry
go.
about that.
There you go. And I forgot what I was talking about. But yeah, that's been an excellent avenue for thought. And so, I mean, are you familiar with teachings of the Bible? And like, I think it's John 3:5, where it states, "Flesh must be born of the flesh, or flesh is born of the flesh, and spirit spirit is born of the spirit." And I mean, it's the same as the whole ba and the ka thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a correct analysis of that?
So to me, once again, looking at it specifically archetypal and the archetype that's behind the reasoning of that particular passage of words, I would say that is something that's been implanted into the Bible, and not necessarily something that was of divine inspiration. And I say that for the understanding of, you know, meat creates meat and spirit creates spirit. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that's a very human way of looking at things, you know, very, you know, like saying that spirit is above us, and we're not capable of being able to create what spirit can, just as spirit can't create what we create. I think it's all
Right.
and I think that we're material and spirit at the same time. And that's why archetypally that says that to me, that's something that was put into the Bible from the perspective of a scholar rather than divine inspiration. Because to me, if it was divinely inspired, it would show that understanding of oneness rather than separation.
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily tries to convey that. That's not what I got from that message, but I didn't see that John 3:5 verse until after I realized that you know, because I was under the understanding that you had to die a physical death to go to heaven, to become one with God, or you know, to meet God or go to heaven, you know. And I just knew it as going to heaven. I didn't know it as meeting God, you know. I feared God, you know, and I think that was something that was instilled in us as the dogma. Man convoluted the Bible, but I didn't see it as. I think it was telling us that you have to be born again, because it ends with, so you need not be surprised when I say you must be born again, is what that verse ends as. So I think that's pretty, you know.
I mean, to me, I can look at that allegorically from, you know, any perspective, but it comes back down to the same perspective, I believe, is what I just told.
What you feel it as when you read it, right? Is that what you mean by it?
And like it's saying that, you know, you have to be born again to be one with God. I don't think that that's the case. I think that you need to break down all the paradigms which stop you in being able to participate in that sort of energetic exchange is the thing. I don't think it's necessarily death or life that dictates your connection with God at all. So, you know, and that's a very human understanding to say that you need to die to be one with God, or even to imply that, you know. I've had plenty of experiences with God and the Creator on a multiple of psychedelics, on just through meditation and stuff like that, because I've truly wanted to gain a concept of it, and I didn't need to die any deaths to get there. We could, at the end of the day, we could say that it's just a manifestation of my psyche, and I never even met God. But that's beside the point. To me, as a human, I believe that that's not the case. I don't think you need to die in order to go to heaven. Heaven's here, hell's here.
You're right, right. I think I stated that or phrased that wrong, because I agree with what you said there, because that's what I used to believe, and now I think what it really means is you must kill your ego. Your ego must die. Your belief system or your constructs that you think that this is everything has to die. That you have to realize that there's more to this than what you've been taught, shown, and made to believe. Because I mean, in the middle of the word believe is the word lie. And that's what I want to maybe close this on, is what is your honest your take on the embedded messages within words of our paradigm?
Old friend etymology, eh?
Yeah.
Man, it's all magic. I was actually just discussing with my partner, who was buying a book on the Essenes, who are the Secret Society of Jesus, for example. They're not called the Secret Society of Jesus, but that is what Jesus was meant to be a part of, the Brotherhood. And their books in teaching prayer and stuff like that, they have all the vowels and stuff taken out of the book. So the book is just completely full of consonants, right? And the reason why you do that is to practice your prayers and practice your intent without actually speaking them into existence. And it talks about that the vowels being the magic binder between the thought and reality itself.
Oh, wow, dude. So, I always wondered that. You just answered that for me, dude. Because I always wondered, how could you have a language without vowels or spelling without vowels?
And it's interesting, because me and the wife, we got into pretty deep discussion about it and the theories about it, and we came to this.
Consonant vowels. What's that? Sorry, bud. Sorry.
No, you're right. Whenever you explain something and you want to get your point across and you want to convey it, it is always conveyed through the vowel. It's not something that I ever thought of before, but you think about the way you explain things. Like you say the word, for example, doom, right? You say doom. I was like, okay, well, that person's talking about, death or destruction or havoc. But if you go doom and you accentuate those O's, all of a sudden people go, oh, well, this is serious. And you can write down 1,000 words, because we did close to that and pulled out all the words and we said them all differently with the vowel. And it's interesting that it's only the vowel that you accentuate. So the way that you project your words upon others is through the vowel only, not through the consonants. If you're speaking life and you're trying to get your point across, you always accentuate the vowels to make sure that the person understands what you're talking about. That is how you imply context and tone, is through the vowel. And I thought
the vowel is the verb of the word.
Yep. So apart from the English language being magic, being a cross between Latin and Greek, and and being a magic to try and dispel us into believing and thinking and speaking different magics into existence, the thing that actually speaks it is the vowel itself. So,
dude, that's
and it blew my mind when we had that discussion, because me, as a deep thinker and as someone who likes to look into the secrets of the world and how things affect us and how we're unconsciously navigating, that is one thing that I never paid attention to and I never came to a conclusion about. And the last few days, it was only a couple of days ago, we had this, we were probably talking about it for a couple of hours.
That is so weird, dude.
And it is the weirdest thing that you would never have thought of that. But when you stop and you start writing words down and you start accentuating the vowels, you understand that the vowels are the thing that make up the matrix of the word, nothing else. And then when you go deeper again and you look into the English language and you have the etymology where you have two words combined, right? It'll always be separated by a vowel. Always, every single time, because the vowel is the thing that connects the two words. So there's something for you to chew on tonight.
dude, that's the do out of the word, man, or the manifestation. It's like the Stan Tenen thing with the hand in the Hebrew alphabet. You know, like I was saying, how it's like you were just saying, allegory. I believe allegory. I think allegory is the algorithm of humans. You know, or the you know what I mean?
Yep,
The
yeah,
interaction
that's the
between.
algorithm of the thought process.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I. Yeah, exactly. Just so yeah, we're on the same page, dude. I had. This is the reason why you and I had to talk today. Was that information right there? You and I, every time we get together, there's always one nugget, dude. That's huge, and either one of ours reality that it's like the five. You know, I mean, have you studied up on the five and what the pyramid
Uh,
is connected with that yet or nothing?
I live the 5 and the 23, man. You know that. I've every single day I'm manifesting 23 into my life and setting different little tasks for my mind to create, you know, or to not necessarily create, but to be able to communicate with 23.
Articulate, explain.
You know, I live the 23. I think that the 5 is the prime number. I think it is the number, you know, and it's also directly in the middle between 1 and 9 as well. That's another thing that, you know, I've come to the realization. It is the center point of manifestation. You can manifest the negative and the positive, the negative being 1 and the positive being 9. You can reach either of those points by starting at the 5. If you start at the 1 and move to the 9, you've got a massive distance to move. The same the opposite way. But the 5 is like the balance point of manifestation. And I think that, you know, using that 5 and using the 5 to manifest your reality is the strongest way to manifest reality, in my opinion.
The reason why I bring that up, brother, is in that you just explained that just eloquently. That, and I agree with that. So the five is the fulcrum of the teeter totter of our existence,
Yep.
and I agree with that totally. You take two tetrahedrons, which are the pyramids, right?
Yep.
You take
Yep.
two tetrahedrons, you put them together. What do you get?
A Merkaba.
Or a dodecahedron, right? I think, right? Is it a dodecahedron when and it creates looks like a diamond shape? Looks like a diamond.
Yep.
That's compressed carbon.
Yep.
That's twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are, like a diamond in the sky. You know.
And also the Merkaba, which is the light body, which is and it's a manifestation of the ability of our body to move beyond the physical body. So, you know, everything's connected, my man. Nothing is coincidence.
That's beautiful. That's just it's so sublime that it's just whoa, you know. I mean that and that vol thing that you just shared with me, that's incredible. I have never even considered that, you know. And
yeah, and that's just one of those things that we live with every day. Like 35 years of my life I've gone through using vowels with my words and never once even considered that we even use the vowels to accentuate our words correctly. I mean, you know, you think that's a pretty basic thing. You don't have to be a great philosopher to come to that sort of conclusion. But here we are, you know, two like-minded people who think about the world. We both didn't know that.
Deeply, yep. And it's no coincidence that we're on the opposite ends of the world either. You're like at the most extreme south, and I'm at the most extreme, well, not the most extreme north, but I'm pretty close in Minnesota. Yep. But it's kind of fitting anyway.
But it is, and it's the way that our energies exchange with each other. Like, for example, you and I, we both can be very, very strong projectors when we come to a new understanding, and we're very strong to want to project that outwardly, to share our thoughts and our new views on other people so they can think differently about the way they view the earth. The distance between us takes away the reverberation of the feedback between both of our strong thoughts.
Nice.
allows inherently in the middle, I reckon.
Right. Hey, I thank you, brother, for joining me here tonight. I mean, I've gotten a lot out of this discussion, and I hope everybody in the chat has. And you know, Danny D's in the chat room, by the way. She says hi.
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, she was on this last podcast that we named the same title that it's named tonight. You know, can we come in from the out now? You know, and I thought that was pretty fitting for tonight's discussion because one last thought. what do you think is the most important thing for somebody that is new to any of this information, that is still thinking there's something wrong, but maybe it's not wrong, but something's afoot, something's in the books or in the works. What do you think somebody should take as their first step to learning how to cope or how to get through this place we call reality?
So one thing that I've learnt and that I've applied a lot within the last few weeks with this whole thing of acceptance and understanding others that I'm going through is first of all having a concrete understanding of where your level of consciousness is, what you can comprehend and what you can't comprehend. And then also when something annoys you, once you understand the level of consciousness that you have yourself, applying that understanding and seeing the level of consciousness of other people. For example, you and I, we might both say it might both anger us to see that a parent with young children is doing heroin, for example. That angers most people to think that someone could abuse the kids like that, right? But when you understand your own level of consciousness and how that has evolved, and you can apply that same understanding to someone else and where their level of consciousness is at, it doesn't anger you anymore. It just is what it is. So that's probably the first thing, is just remembering, no matter what happens in your life, understanding where the level of consciousness resides. Understanding, because you might be super conscious in some ways and very unconscious in others. And I think that if we can just stop, understand where our consciousness is and where our level of understanding resides, and then once we understand that, applying it to other people and the way that we interact with others, life's a lot smoother and everything comes through a lot more clearer. You don't have all these presuppositions and ideas in your mind about how things are supposed to be. And it takes that away and it implants the thing. Things just are the way they are, and there's nothing else to it. There's nothing you can do or say or think or believe that changes things from being the way they are.
That's awesome, right? And you don't have to feel hopeless or any of that in the mix, because I think, to add to that, I think that we are here for it to be. I mean, essentially that's it. The chicken and the egg, or if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it, doesn't make a noise thing. That whole, that what sparks our thought, I think, is what it is in essence. I mean, we are what we are, and without us to see it, does it exist? That's what I think.
And that's probably the biggest burning question in my mind at the moment is that if we are not there to observe it, does it exist?
That's my biggest thing too, dude. That's weird, man.
It's probably the biggest paradox that I've come across, because I understand that everything is a matrix and it's all one big computer program, or at least that's what I believe. And if that's the case, then we could say that. But if it's not the case, then it'll change a lot, don't they?
Hey, and I got one more thing to add. Isn't it odd how this light right here, how we perceive it?
Yep. Stop right there. Looks exactly like the center point of light that Phil Langdon has on his illumination page. Yes. Is that what you were going to say?
Yes. Boom, dude. That's why I put it in the motif of every video I do now.
Yep.
It looks exactly the same, dude. And how is that perceived? You can look at that light with your naked eye, and you do not see it like that. You see it through a lens, another lens.
Yep.
That's how I think the
perception of another.
Yes. Thank you. Bravo, brother. That's exactly what I was getting at. It's just like when you view your own live stream live, how it just keeps going in and in and in and in and in. You know what I mean? How you just keep seeing the fractalization of that fractal. The creation within the creation is what the key is, I think. Yep. That's beautiful. I got goosebumps, brother, and I love that feeling.
Awesome. That's what I like to see. Love a bit of goosebumps action.
Hey, thank you, brother. I really appreciate it, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your wisdom with me, because it's been pretty deep and satisfying.
It's likewise, man. Always have a great time with you.
You too, brother. Hey, how's the weather down there and down under? I mean, you guys just had your winter solstice. We just had our summer.
Beautiful today. Today it's sunny, not a cloud in the sky. Probably around about 55 to 60. So absolutely perfect conditions today. It's good weather. Can't complain. Going to get out in the sun. It's only just gone 1:30, so plenty of time to take.
Lucky you.
Get in the grass. Perfect weather, man.
Lucky you. Give the baby a hug for me and tell the wife I said hi. Take her easy, brother. Much love, peace, and chicken grease. Take her easy. And I want to say thanks to all you guys for joining us tonight. Thank you, Michelle, E-Star Ra, Just Spitfire. It's all in my mind is where I've been for too long. A lifetime, my head hurts thinking about it. It hurts your head every once in a while, but fear not. We'll get her done, right? But yeah, guys, thank you. Isaac Miller says, Steve, your intuition is great. Glad I found you. Thank you for joining us. And everybody says good night, and I want to say good night to everybody. I appreciate you all. Thank you. Yeah.